Yo guys, what up? Nick Broman here. Today I'm going to be doing a video I uploaded a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to be getting into more of these videos soon. I've just been reacting to other videos and whatnot. However, that's a discussion for another day, like an update video. But right now this is why Adam Torres is my favorite RWBY villain and why. My last video I put up, I don't believe I went into great detail as to why I personally believe Adam's the best villain so far. So in this video I'll be going into two different scenarios of what could have made Adam just snap and become the extremist and the violent person he is today. Now before I get into this, you can hate Adam as much as you want for cutting off Byung's arm and for stabbing Blake in the gut. However, out of all the villains in RWBY so far, he is by far the one with the most reason and the most we can theorize off of. Now let's get into the two scenarios I was just talking about. Now, I believe Adam was originally just didn't have any natural talent for combat in any way. I do not believe he was like that. And he kind of just developed that combat experience over time. I don't believe he was always gifted with fighting in any way. And so this is the first scenario. He wasn't gifted in fighting. He was helpless and he saw how everybody was treating, and he joined the White Fang in the beginning to be the voice of his people. And excuse me. He basically dedicated himself to the peaceful protests, you know, like how Blake explained in Volume 1, Chapter 16, Black and White. He basically just dedicated himself to the peaceful protests, holding up the signs and whatnot, and you know, just being peaceful in how they went about trying to promote equality and fairness throughout the world of Remnant. And something just inside him snapped. Like he just come to realization that at the end of the day, what are we really accomplishing? This is his like mindset, what he's thinking. At the end of the day, what have we really accomplished? What are we doing? We haven't made any progress in trying to get like any form of equality. The humans are still treating us like we're crap, like we're the scum of the earth. They're still putting us in labor forces. They're still looking at us with disgust and hate. It's just not working. And he built all that anger up and resentment up inside for the years he was alive. And while he was protesting, he was so powerful enough to hold it back. However, something just snapped. He saw he wasn't making any progress. Therefore, he became the extreme person we see today. And that on top of Blake abandoning him, or at least in his mind he saw it as her abandoning him. It kind of makes sense why he became the way he is. The Faunus were never treated as equals. They were treated as monsters and the scum of the earth. They were forced into labor houses and whatnot, forced to work against their will, and and just treated unfairly from like the moment the Faunus like came into the world, you know. And in one of the World of Remnants, it explained that the Faunus were even hunted down and killed for just pure sport, and because the humans just did not care for them. So from that perspective, can you honestly blame Adam? Does it justify what he's done? By no means does it. But at the same time, can you really argue and say you can't understand where he's coming from when his entire species, his entire race has been discriminated against, has been hated, has been forced into labor workforces, has been hunted down in the past, and just treated like the ultimate scum of the earth? Can you really honestly say you blame him for letting his anger and resentment kind of come into vision, and just, you know, you just can't blame him. It just makes too much sense. And now here's for the second sequence, which is we believe Sienna Khan is the leader of the White Fang, the high leader, like the ultimate leader. I believe Sienna Khan could have also manipulated Adam and made him kind of see that this isn't working. We're not making any progress. And it wasn't Adam who came to this on his own. He had someone manipulate and control him. That person was Sienna Khan, the High Leader of the White Fang, after Blake's father stepped down. And keep in mind, Sienna Khan isn't definitively the White Fang's High Leader. That's just a theory that's out, and I'm going with it. But basically, Sienna Khan basically manipulated Adam and just said, what are we really doing? How are we making a difference like this? Let your anger, let your resentment take form, and just show humans that we will not take your oppression, even if it's in the worst extreme, way possible. And that's the only difference from the first and second sequence. And it's honestly not a big difference that really changes the outcome of things, but it's just because Adam, whichever way you look at it, he's guilty for many crimes, but his reasoning behind it, the species has been, just treated unfairly for so many years, and he's probably even seen it firsthand. Brothers and sisters being killed and discriminated against and hated. It just makes sense for him to be this extreme, violent kind of guy against humanity. It makes sense. Now, am I saying what he's doing is right? No. And his reasons did not justify his actions in any way. But out of all the villains, he's not a one-dimensional villain. Out of all the villains, what do we really know about them? We don't know anything. Cinder's after power, but why is she after power? What happened to her to want and to crave power? Mercury, we just saw killed his father, and we just don't really know that much. And we just don't know that much about Mercury in general to really even theorize anything off of. Emerald was a thief, and she was hungry and starving, and she lived on the streets. And I guess her reasoning is kind of more she just wanted to follow Cinder because Cinder's the one who helped her get off the streets and whatnot, and she fed her, and she just looks up to Cinder, which I can get to a certain degree. But what's your own motivation? There has to be something bigger to make it a more compelling villain for Emerald. And Salem, we don't know anything about her. She got something against Ozpin. I think that's clear as day. But what is it she has against Ozpin? Why is she plotting against mankind? Why is she taking all these actions towards the relics? Why? We just don't know that much about any of the other villains. And there's theories all around, but I just can't find any theory that kind of just makes me think, oh yeah, they're a good villain. They're not just this ultimate evil kind of villain. They're one-dimensional. There's nothing that makes me think that. Whereas Adam, the world of Remnant basically explains his entire character. And keep in mind, this is also a theory, but it's one that's more definitive than anyone else. And it's something that honestly makes sense. The world of Remnant itself is proof of Adam's theorized villainy. It makes sense for a villain. And basically the world of Remnant is just the proof enough of why Adam is a villain. His race has been discriminated and hated against. And the world of Remnant just depicts that so well. I don't believe you could depict Adam in any other way other than someone who hates humans for treating his race unfairly and unjustly. Now he wants to take his own form of justice out on them. It makes sense. Like I said, hate him for cutting off Yang's arm, and hate him for stabbing Blake. But in terms of his reasons, theorized or not, you have to admit the world of Remnant has already given us so much insight to his character. And that's, at the end of the day, what matters about a good villain. They can't be one-dimensional to me. They have to have a reason. Whether it's something corny or sappy or just plain out unrealistic, there has to be a reason for them to be a villain. Otherwise, what's the point? The only time I would ever respect a villain for just being evil, for the sake of being evil, is if like they're the ultimate evil. And the best example I can give of this is Sauron from the Lord of the Rings series, the big great eye. He's just the ultimate evil in general. He doesn't really have any motives. He's just a force of nature. He's just the nature of evil itself. But when you're a human being, or in this case, a faunus, you have a mind of your own, you have opinions and beliefs, you have emotions, and you have a whole life behind you and in front of you. We gotta have a reason for a villain to exist. Otherwise, they're just boring, plain villains. And out of all of them, Adam has the most we can theorize off of to make a good, compelling villain. Now, does this have to be how Adam is? No. By all means, this does not have to be why Adam's a villain. This is just my own personal opinions and beliefs. And if you don't agree with that, hey, all the power to you. But for me, this is the reason why he's the best villain. And honestly, it makes sense. It just fits him, you know? And I guess that's all I have to say, really. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to really get into. It's fairly straightforward, really. His race has been treated unfairly, and he wants justice in his own way. And it honestly makes sense. So, honestly, he's the best villain in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love Cinder and I love Mercury. Not so much an Emerald fan, but I also love Roman. Can't really go off of Cinder, we haven't seen that much of her. But, you know, it is what it is. Adam's personally my favorite villain. If you disagree, in the comments, put who's your favorite villain and why they're your favorite villain. Rate this video 1 through 10, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. This is Nick Brawlin, man, out with the yay.